Hello, mic check. Ready? A program is an ordered set of instructions or commands. Don't worry, I am not going to bore you by simply reading info. So, let me get that for you. Although you can read if you want, not necessary. Before we begin with anything, you first need to download Python IDLE, which is the editor or the interpreter required to run your codes. To download it, follow these steps. Search Download Python on Google and then select the first website itself. Link will be available in description as well. Click on Download button. Open the file. Here make sure to select Add Python.exe to path. It will be helpful later. Rest is pretty simple. Don't forget to disable path length limit here. This again will be helpful later. Start by opening IDLE. Your starting screen should look something like this. There are two execution modes. First is this, interactive mode. This is not saved and is majorly used for trials or checking a line or part of code. You get instant result here. For example, when I simply put this hello world code. On the other hand, when we do the same in script mode. To run it first, we have to save the file. Notice, the program runs in interactive mode only. There are some important points to note. Identifier is the name used to identify functions and other things in a code. There are certain rules to naming identifier. It should not begin with a digit, although could begin with alphabet and underscore. They cannot include special character and cannot be a keyword also. We will see keywords after this. Variables are type of mutable identifiers, meaning their value can change throughout the program. I want you to take a screenshot of this. Keywords are reserved words in Python that have special meaning and are used for syntax purposes. So using them as variable could affect the working of programs. There are three major data types in Python which you will use a lot. These are numbers, sequences, and mappings. Head back to interpreter. Let me change the font size so it is easy for you to see. You can do too. To create a variable, simply write the name of variable equal to the value. Let's create three different variables. Integer and float, which is your decimals, is automatically detected, but for complex the syntax itself requires you to mention it. In interpreter you simply have to type the variable to display it. Notice, here imaginary is represented by J. You can check the data type of variable by simply typing type and mentioning the variables in bracket. You can change the data type if you want. Say for A to be float, you have to mention float before writing the number. Note, 0 is added after 10 to show it is float. When you do the same with variable B, the number is rounded of to the greatest integer equal to or less than the value, despite its closeness to 11. For complex number you can print the real and imaginary part separate. For real simply type .real after variable. Meanwhile for imaginary don't type imaginary, cause it will generate an error. You have to type imag after variable for it. Also, this is a benefit of interpreter mode. If you are confused about the syntax, just try it here to check. An interesting question here can be how to limit number of digits after decimal point. For that we use the round function. Type round then number or variable, comma, the number or digits you want to keep. You can use the same function to round the numbers before decimal. You only have to use negative number for it. Now let's talk about sequences. First category is strings. String can include almost anything. Alphabets, special characters, and numbers also. Make sure to put them in quotation marks though. You will see what happens if you don't. Quotations can be single or double, doesn't matter, but make sure you start and end with same style. I have created a few here. Let's play with them now. Let's check its type. Addition works different with string. Say we add string 2 and 1. Notice, they concatenate. Let's try the same with string 3 and 2. Notice, the type error. What went wrong? Remember I said quotation marks are necessary. Since I did not add them in string 3, it considered it as integer. But, if you do the same with alphabets, it will generate error there and there. This is because it will consider it as variable, and since you would have not defined it already, error is bound to happen. You can even do indexing with string, that is, get a part of string from another string. Index is basically location of element in string. Note, spaces in string is also counted here. Also, indexing starts from 0 and not 1. Take from example. Let's switch to a bigger example. You may ask, what to do if we want to select a group of elements from a string? It's actually simple. In the same syntax, add a colon and the end index. And that's it. Going ahead, what if we mention an index that is not there only? Like 50. What about 1000? In short, it will just print till the last available index. Coming towards tuple. A tuple can be understood as a collection of elements, which may include different data types. Unlike the data types we have seen till now, tuple needs to be enclosed in round brackets. Furthermore, we can add more elements simply after adding a comma. Just like strings, tuples can also be indexed, so the order of elements also matter in tuple. Similarly, you can extract more than one element. You should have noticed one thing by now: whichever data type you choose to create, you must add an identifier to it, otherwise you won't be able to access it. Next up we have lists. You can say they are mutable tuples in short. Although unlike tuples, they are enclosed in square brackets. Elements are separated by commas. You can do slicing, which is extracting a part of list. You can even add step value. Just add another colon and the value which you want to skip the numbers with. But the things you can do with lists doesn't end here. You can change the values of list elements just like a variable. You slice the element and equal it to value you want. Try the same with tuples and comment the error you observed. The last data type we will be discussing for now is dictionary, which comes under mapping. The elements in dictionary are written in pairs. Basically a key-value pair. The key is like the variable. Meanwhile, value as it sounds, is the meaning. For creating dictionaries we use the curly brackets. Each pair is separated by comma, and each key-value pair is separated by a colon. So, let's quickly create a dictionary. Printing the dictionary is simple. Unlike lists, you access the elements here using the keys. Now, obviously you saw I made a mistake, so let me show you how to fix it. Now, in a similar way you can create new elements in dictionary as well. And, the best part, who said the value has to be a string? It can be anything, even a list. We will look more into dictionary and lists in another video. Coming to the last topic of this video. This one is very simple actually. Input syntax is input itself. Let's create a simple program. We will ask user what they want to print. Don't worry, we will gradually increase the level. Interesting thing is that IDLE helps you in identifying the bracket you just closed. It highlights the part enclosed. A problem to be noted is that, here it works, but what happens to the same code in script mode? Let's try. You could add a space after the question to give user little space. See that, the program just ends. So what's the solution? Here comes the output statement and you have already used it. First we have to assign a variable to the input received, say, A1. Then comes the print statement. Just type the variable in it. Now, let's add on to the same. You can add multiple things in a single print command, just keep adding a comma. But what to do if you want to break the line, that is, go to the next line? You can, of course, add another print statement. This is not advisable, as it will just increase the lines of your code and hence execution time in long run. Instead, add backslash and end this in the same code. Note the direction of slash. Let's end this with a few questions. Of course, the first and correct comment will be pinned. First, what are the two modes of execution in IDLE? Second, an identifier cannot begin with, select the correct option. Question 3, data type which is not mutable. Lastly, type the code to get imaginary part of complex number. Assume COMPL to be the identifier. Before we end, don't forget to subscribe for part 2.